Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Okay. I think we're okay. Now streaming
Okay.
live?
We're live. You may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to start the December 8th meeting of the San Clemente Human Affairs Committee. Call to order, roll call would be Paula Cole here, and I see Toby Huddle, Tyler Bowden, Brenda Wells, and Bill Ewing. So I think we have them, and we can start. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
nation
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty
liberty and justice for all. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
You've got mail.
I have the minutes for the meeting of October 13th, and I've perused them, and they do portray the minutes of the meeting that we had. I'd like to get a first and a second, a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from our last meeting, October.
Second.
Thank you. All approved?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Okay, so we have an education topic for every meeting. And this meeting, we have asked Susan Parmalee to educate us on substance abuse, especially as it pertains to San Clemente. And I will let Susan start. Hi, Susan. You're on mute. Hold on. You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
There. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for letting me go first, everybody. Please feel free to ask me as many questions as you have as we go. I don't have good news. I'm just going to say that. We're seeing a really bad wave of mental health and substance use issues that it's kind of revved up probably about a month delay from when all these kind of stay-at-home orders started and from when the pandemic really grew. Attorney General Xavier Becerra said that he saw that in California, we saw a 25% spike in opioid overdose deaths since the pandemic started. It's definitely hit us close to home. I personally know of 3, which means there's so many more out there because these don't always make it out in the public. Nationwide, in a CDC study from April to June, 1 in 4 18 to 24-year-olds seriously considered suicide. And 40% of US adults have reported struggling with mental health or substance use. The rough thing that happened right when this started was a lot of people lost their support systems. They also lost their jobs at the same time. So if you're struggling to maintain your mental health or your sobriety, it's a bigger blow than most people can handle. The populations we are particularly concerned about are the marginalized populations, immigrants, LGBTQ, caregivers, frontline workers, and I'm talking beyond the medical fields. We're calling fast food workers, we're calling bus drivers, we are calling janitors. We've all required them to stay at work, and often they're not safe. They just closed down another food processing plant in Northern California today. Those in recovery, when this first started, and I don't know if this gap has closed, could not access medication-assisted treatments, support groups. Those with chronic pain couldn't access pain care and lost their access to actually needed pain meds and forced them to use illicit substances. We see a lot of stress among adults trying to school their youth while caring for an aging parent who may have lost their in-home health care. We're very concerned. I did send a document to Paula and I'm blanking who it is in the city with some resources that I wanted to highlight real quick. I attached the CDC report on mental health and substance use during COVID, the American Medical Association's report on overdose deaths during COVID-19. I attached a link to our newest campaign that you should be seeing in the public called Have the Talk, which is encouraging adults to speak to young people about their mental health. And then the link to the Orange County Healthcare Agency's COVID help page for preventing mental health and substance and suicide. So those are a few things that that are there for you guys to review to kind of give you a picture of what's going on out there. But that's kind of basically a summary. We have our caseloads have been rapidly increasing with about 10 clients a week since late October. As kids kind of don't see an end to this, they start to feel a little worse than they were feeling before. And we're just seeing on a whole lot of pile up and a lot of things. We are not getting a lot of reports of youth being referred to us for substance use, mainly because they're not getting caught. Also, though, some of their supply chains may be cut off, which could be a good thing of this, but I can't tell you either. Those are just my anecdotal thoughts for those two items. And we're also seeing a lot of caregiver burnout amongst mental health professionals as these growing issues come in and we feel kind of powerless to take care of them. We are still, Wellness and Prevention Center is still open for families and youth for referrals. We still have space and we have some new interns starting. So we are here, and I just kind of want to remind everyone to keep making connections and keep calling people that you are concerned about and are not concerned about, because right now people are losing their connections and we need to make sure everybody hears from people. So, every presentation I've been making lately, I'm just like, every day, just make it an effort to text or call 3 people in your life and just say, hey, thinking about you. Because it's really the only thing that's going to get us through the next few weeks is knowing that we're all there for each other. So, so in a nutshell, that's what's going on. Any questions?
The action items, I think, are something that we would be interested in, is the action items and what can we do to help as individuals and as a committee. Again, make sure people know the resources. There's still huge gap in basic needs even, so make sure people know about FAM. FAM's there, they have the capacity to meet the need in our community. You make sure people know that these hotlines are up. The NAMI Warm Line's a great resource. So all those resources and the Orange County Healthcare link I sent you, they've condensed everything in really good spot. Just making people aware that people need to be supportive of each other right now. We've got to kind of end this negativity. It doesn't matter what your belief is about what's going on, just talk to one another. That's really my main action point right now. And most support groups are online now. So if people and you care about aren't accessing that kind of support, give them my number. I'll help them make sure they get connected.
I have a question, Susan, and actually, Tyler, I need you to help me with this, but there was not too long ago, was it like the Friday morning beachside chat, and there's a new conversation about bringing marijuana dispensaries or growing opportunities back to San Clemente. And they did this exit poll where most men were in favor and most women weren't. And I'm just wondering what your continued position is on that, if there's anything that's going to change the way coronavirus, COVID, retreat, isolation might be having an impact.
Well, I think I'm going to guess it was brought to the table as a tax, increase to the tax base, right? Which is a sad argument. And we've seen a lot of communities do that. And the minute they open up to it, they're very unhappy. They don't like what they see. I mean, literally the minute you open these shops locally, you're going to smell it on every street corner. I mean, those of you, yeah. So these towns are the towns that have it wide open use now, and the businesses are all there. They're not happy after. If this really becomes an issue, I will get our kids together back at City Hall and we will go to those planning commission meetings. We will be there. That bums me out, Brenda. It just makes me sad.
Well, it really was a surprise to me too, because I thought we'd kind of figured this out. What I found interesting was of the people in the conversation, the majority were in favor of making it a possibility, but this poll said how many women were against it, and the question was why. And my only thought was because mothers don't want to think about this. This is the kind of thing that was a problem. But I just want to make sure that I'm not an obstacle to something that's actually either benign or a benefit. So I appreciate your perspective on that.
Mr. Hamilton.
I was gonna say, anecdote one, right. I see it just around in that, as you said, people that need support, like I'll just use AA or something like that. They're not funding because there's something about that interpersonal dynamic, and then the opioid use, which was before, is even getting more. And I can say that I see the little liquor stores and places that sell alcohol. I'm amazed there's more like foot traffic going in as I walk around, not only here, but someplace else. And I am surprised at how many people, how busy liquor stores are and that kind of thing. I mean, you used to be, you'd see somebody driving in. I see people walking in and walking out. And the nutrition choices aren't their best. So between the two,
Yeah, no, we're already, one of the predictions is that that one of the bad sides of sheltering in place is the nutrition declines, and we're going to see a rise in other diseases. And alcohol still remains the #1 health and public safety cost, but we're never going to get rid of alcohol. Right. That's a personal choice. It's a slow killer, but it still costs us more in health care dollars and in safety dollars. But that's, there's no debate really to be had there. There's just prevention education. And thankfully, our youth don't really like alcohol. They see it as kind of as what people do and get angry and are disgusting, and they don't really choose alcohol, and youth alcohol use is way down. I'm going to say among adults I think there's probably a lot of people drinking more than they used to, for sure, during this situation.
So this thing stopping the dispensaries or dispensary deliveries, actually helping to save the youth from that
right. And I'm going to tell you flat out, the delivery is happening. There's no way to police it. It's illegal, but it's happening. In our community, even though it's not allowed. The dispensaries just takes it to one more level. And I'd like to think it's going to take a lot to change that, that I would think. It's going to take, I don't really exactly know how we change that zoning ordinance, but I would think it's going to take a lot of work, and we would be right on top of any campaign to stop it.
So what's going on with the illicit drugs? I mean, like opium and cocaine and meth. I
just don't have, Paul, I don't have a lot of data just because it's not really, usually our data has a year lag to begin with. I can have a look at the coroner's data on the ODs, but I do know heroin's probably going to be the #1 right now, just because it is the easiest to get. And then probably counterfeit narcotics is going to be second. That's where it was before, and I doubt it's changed. Cocaine tends not to OD. It tends up not to be in an OD number unless it's combined with something else. But before the lockdown, kids were talking more about cocaine. I honestly just don't have my intel the same right now, because we're not getting the referrals. We're not having the suspensions for possession. So I just don't, it's hard to, some of it's a black hole right now because we just don't know what the kids are doing.
Susan, I've got a question for you. It's Bill Ewing. You can't see my picture. They won't let me put my picture out because I'm just not good enough looking.
Oh,
for the
Bill,
rest of the group.
I'm imagining you,
Anyway.
okay?
Okay,
imagine that terrible face. Susan, here's my question. And I did go through that list of resources I think you sent, mental health resources, and was interested in if you look at the whole city of San Clemente, is there an age group in particular that you find to be underserved, or not having any resources or sufficient resources?
Yeah, I would say that's going to be right now are probably 25 to 40-year-olds that struggle the most with addiction, that don't have the coverage for services, and that have been most highly impacted by overdose deaths. That's so it's kind of Lauren's cohort. They kind of hit that time when people were really using some of the worst substances, and they've been faced with more suicides and overdoses and tend to not have the access to care they need because they may be unemployed. And honestly, even if they somehow get on Medi-Cal, the services just aren't good enough to keep them in recovery. So that's probably the most underserved group. And then I would say second would be our immigrant population who may be afraid to access care.
What about homeless? Are they getting any attention that you're seeing?
Not that I'm really aware of. I still really question what all the city initiatives and the money spent on getting the services here has done. I haven't seen much evidence of what it's done.
Neither have we. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Tyler?
Yeah, Susan, first off, thanks so much for being here to give this report. And also wanted to say, I've really appreciated the articles that you and Lauren have put in the San Clemente Times through this pandemic. I think it's been really helpful just to anyone who reads it in terms of maintaining a healthy mindset and healthy lifestyle through all of this. My question is just about drug use prevention at the high school. I was curious what your thoughts are on kind of what the program is right now. I know the DARE program's been going on forever. And then also, is there any counseling that's sort of compulsory, or is it all just voluntary counseling at the high school?
So at the high school and the middle schools, we are a suspension intervention. So if there is a suspension for possession or use on campus, this includes e-cigs. The youth and families can choose to use our services to get rid of the some schools have demerits. The high school, you're trying to get back on your sports team or back to activities. Services with us, either three individual sessions, or for vaping, we do lunch education sessions that can speed up your getting back on the good side. So Lauren's actually back doing vape interventions at BAMS. They had enough offenses since school reopened. We have not had any referrals on the high school side right now, and we're not sitting on campus just because of the limited number of teaching minutes. We're keeping our services to telehealth after school hours so that kids still get some education right now. So we were that required intervention here in San Clemente. There also can be required to the Pepperdine program. I'm losing my mind I don't remember things because we're not using them as much, but the sheriff has the Pride program. The sheriff, so that can no longer be mandatory, but it's well used. And then, our general universal prevention education, there's not much happening. And I don't know that health is even a requirement right now. Kids actually are not even, juniors and seniors are down to 4 or 5 classes because they dropped graduation requirements during this. And we still have our youth coalition going, and they're doing activities virtually, and also COA is doing, their universal prevention education virtually as well. And they had been doing some in person, but that I don't know what's happening right now with that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do we have any other questions for Susan? I do have personal experience with, family experience with AA, and I will say that it works. If anybody that can get into AA, I think it really helps, especially right now, because they were already doing Zoom meetings before, and it sort of keeps people, the ones that I know anyway, on track. And the people that I know that are in it are doing a really good job. So the more people can use AA, the better.
Yeah, a huge part of connection is accountability, right? So if you have someone you have to tell how you're doing and you're held accountable, you're more likely to make better choices. So, and to want to be better. So, which is a really important part.
So Susan, I have a question about your funding and your grants and stuff like that. So you're probably balanced between not being able to serve your population, but still being available. And I know that at San Clemente, we didn't get our social services grants. And I'm just wondering how you're doing with that.
Honestly, it's more just sort of makes you feel sad that the city decided to just drop funding needed services. It wasn't a very big part of our budget. Thankfully, we're okay. We even added a full-time employee. We just got awarded a state contract with UC Irvine. I've had to carry one employee because the contract still isn't signed because of just the usual bureaucratic reasons. But we're okay. I just find it sad that the city doesn't prioritize community well-being and the nonprofits that work so hard to keep those things going. So, and I'm thankful we're okay. It's been also a lot of hard work on our board members, and but there's been some good nonprofit funding to fill the gaps. Like the Orange County Resiliency Fund gave us a very generous grant, and we got a PPE grant for fund that did 8 weeks of our salaries. So so we're doing all right. It's been a lot of pulling strings, but we're okay, and we're looking, our next couple of years look really good because of the state youth wellness center project we're going to be working on.
Good.
Just one continuation of that question in terms of fundraising. Obviously, fundraising for any nonprofit, as we've all seen, has been challenging, but have you seen that your fundraising has been at par with previous years, or far below par, or just in terms of regular fundraising efforts?
2 events that we held actually put us ahead our usual annual local fundraising. One was sadly because of an overdose. One of our board members' son died by overdose. So that brought in quite a bit of money. And then our Murph bike raffle was one of our most successful fundraisers ever. That brought in about $17,000, and we had $600 in costs. So that was super great. So I'm seeing these raffles seem to be working pretty well because people are willing to put that $100 out there here and there, and it's actually a lot easier than going to an event. And it cost us a lot less money to hold. So I'm kind of okay that we didn't have an in-person fundraiser. That takes a lot out of us. Me in particular, that's not really my skill set. So we're thankfully this year it went all right.
Well, glad to hear it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Susan. To segue into that, I put Susan first because she's double booked on these days. So I wanted her to go first so she could make her other commitments for the day. But I do have, as a segue into that, we do have a letter that we received that I'd like to read from COA, from Terry Steele at Community Outreach Alliance, which was another nonprofit in town that supports the same kind of people and the same kind of, many of the same issues that Susan and wellness and prevention.
Do you want me to stay for this, Paula, or sneak away?
It's a 3-paragraph.
All right, I'll listen to that and then I'll say thank you.
Okay.
So this is from COA. Thank you for having the important topic of substance abuse on the agenda. Community Outreach Alliance is working hard to ensure activities and leadership opportunities are made available to the youth in our community during COVID, but it's tough. Because grants and sponsors have been hit, we have struggled to keep our programs going. I hope that grants will be made available again to nonprofits like COA, as not receiving one for 2021 was a definite loss right after our move to the Baha'i, where we don't pay rent and insurance. As a follow-up to Luke and Mia presenting at the last meeting, is there any chance that grants will be issued from the last submittal? If not, is there any city-owned facility that COA can use to store our seasonal equipment? We don't need much space for the 8 bikes and 8 SUPs that we sure would appreciate for free, as units run approximately $175 a month, and that's not doable during this time as we direct our funds to the Food Connection, feeding over 1,400 people a month, and leadership programs such as Thrive Alive, running Zoom conferences over the past year. We've seen an increase in substance abuse during COVID, and more than ever want to offer our 7-week Thrive Alive series, but need help. Thank you for all you do for the nonprofits in our community. I truly value each of you. So that goes right along with what Susan said is we lost some funding, and we're trying to get it back one way or the other. So thank you, Susan, very much.
Thank you for all your hard work and supporting what we do in the community.
Have a good
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
What about the old city building, the city council building? It's all boarded up.
You know, the one
it's
that
up
used
for
to be the police
sale.
department? That's a good idea.
Or even where wellness and prevention used to be, the upper campus classroom.
Well, that's where Susan is. Upper campus.
I
That's where
think they
Susan.
moved down to the main campus now, I think, haven't they? Or did they go the other way around? I don't remember which.
They're still up.
You're still up, okay.
Yeah.
And they have that whole, I mean, the old Presidio, I guess it would call the Presidio building. There's probably a place there. I mean, here in Rancho San Clemente, you'd think that there might be some organizations or some companies that have a garage or a, place to
Yeah,
store.
yeah.
Like, I don't know what a SUP is. I guess you guys all know what a SUP is, but I don't.
Stand-up paddleboard. There's
Oh.
a big, like a giant surfboard.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, they have, they do a lot of stuff outdoors with kids. So they need a place to store them and they don't have anything. So you'd think there's got to be, even somebody who's got a huge garage is not using all their space would be nice.
Yeah.
That's not much of a request, I don't think. But maybe someone will, and I did ask Terry to also write the same letter to City Council next Tuesday before their meeting, because she'll get a bigger audience than we do. And maybe someone will realize that they have space for 8 bikes and 8 SUPs. They can store the stuff. Okay. The next new business is community social service grants, and we've got a bunch of things to talk about. The process and visits and the meeting that we have to award grants. So I'm going to let Janet talk about the application process and the timeline.
Hi, everyone. It's Janet Batchelor.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. It looks like we're going to open up the application this year around December 14th. It'll be open for about 6 weeks and it'll close January 25th. This is all tentative, but that's kind of what we're looking. It'll be open for 6 weeks. And then on the February 9th meeting is when the committee can sit down or Zoom. I'm not quite sure how the platform right now, and go over the applicants.
Okay.
The timeline this year.
Is the
Sorry,
process
Janet, what was the date for the review meeting? Sorry.
For the February 9th.
Okay,
I
thanks.
think that's the scheduled. I think we'd probably have the committee meet after the Human Affairs Committee meeting like we've done in the past.
right? Usually an hour, half an hour to an hour, right after the meeting, because we're already there.
Tyler, didn't you do it
or online.
last? Didn't you review with Paula last year? Did you review them last year, the grant applications?
Yeah.
I was on, I think,
Yeah.
Paula.
3 years ago, it was Bill and 3 years ago it was Jim. 2 years ago, it was Burton, and last year it was Tyler. And I've been doing it all 3 of the years.
So Paula, I'm not sure if you wanted to appoint 2 of your committee members to that committee. I think that's.
Yeah, we were talking about it. We'll do that today. I also wanted to talk about the site visits though, because I don't know how we're going. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask how are going to, the people that get grants, that's not going to change because you go to a website, you download everything, you do it pretty much virtually anyway. So I don't think that that's going to change unless any of the communications have changed. But I'm assuming that the whole process of finding out that there's grants available, applying for them, and acknowledging that your grant was received, that hasn't changed during the COVID, correct?
Well, we haven't went through it yet since COVID's hit, but I don't envision it being any different. It would be online. They would submit the application.
Okay, so that has not changed. I don't think that's going to change either. But the site visits, first of all, we've always visited sites that received grants, but this
Right.
year, no one received a grant. So
Why visit?
we don't normally visit a site that's applied for a grant because we haven't received them yet. So
Yeah.
basically, we're going to visit sites that didn't get grants. And have you guys talked about how we're going to? Because usually at this meeting, we divvy up the sites and we assign 2 or 3 per person. And
what about the people who were given a grant, but then they didn't get it? Do they get any kind of like stay of acceptance or anything that allows us to, not set ourselves up for that disappointment again. Like, how do we know we even have the money for the grants next year if we didn't have it for this year? And then again, how do we, your point, Paula, you're not going to visit a site that didn't get a grant unless you want to visit like what's changed. So it's like a real modest adaptation for their application if things are not significantly different.
That seems to make sense. I'd say to me, if I could say, in the past, we've done site surveys or site visits with recipients from the previous year, even if they didn't necessarily apply in this present year. And applicants for the present year may not have applied the previous year, so we don't necessarily have a site visit with them. So I'd say it makes sense in this round, especially, to just do the same list of organizations that applied last and were approved last year, even though they didn't receive funding. And we may be able to, and this is what I would propose, to inquire with them, with the organization that we're assigned to, inquire with them what the impact of not receiving funding this year was, and so that we may be able to make a recommendation to the council for the mid-year budget cycle on last year's intended social service grants and also next year's. So we'll kind of sort of dual purpose site surveys, or site visits with the same organizations that were approved for it this past year. Does that make sense?
I think we were told, I'm sorry, I can't put my hand up here. I think we were told that mid-year we could apply for reinstatement of those funds and just to see what kind of a year the city is having. So we could, as a committee, issue a letter to whoever's coordinating all of that, just to see just to request the mid-year review that we were told was available, to see if funds have been made available after all. That is to pick up from last year's awards. But I think Tyler's right about how to deal with the awards for this year. I mean, there's nothing to go and review with the people if they haven't received any money. We can't ask them how it was used and how successful the programs were and so forth.
Didn't get it.
They didn't get it?
Yeah. What if?
That was embarrassing, yeah.
What if the ones that were entitled but didn't get it are automatically the ones who get it now in the next go around? What about that?
Well,
You know what I mean? The ones that were going to get it but didn't get it will get it now that it's available.
Well, it depends on COVID. I mean, some things I could tell you everybody who was supposed to get it, what they were supposed to get, and we can make assumptions whether they really need it and not need it, how it would be implemented during COVID. One of them was for t-shirts for grad night. Well, there is no grad night. So there may not be a grad night. There's another one called Operation School Bell for kids' clothing and backpacks to go back to school. So that has probably changed from clothing maybe to more supplies because they're really not going out. I'm making assumptions. But some of them have different goals. They still have need for services, but their services may have changed a little.
Yeah, but some of them are the same, like wellness and prevention.
That's the same, yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
So
And
just take care of those and then check with the others that might have changed.
I mean, my organization, the need is the same, and I like your question, Paula. What was the impact of not getting the grants? And that ties really closely to what Susan's going through. Ours was a program that was, meant for at-risk teens to have additional skill sets to manage resiliency through times like this. Well, we didn't get to do that. Would that have had an impact on the way Susan and I could have worked together and the community and stuff? So I think that would be, something to think about.
right. I mean, I think I like both of your ideas. I mean, we should visit all of them or contact all of them that were supposed to get money and visit with them anyway, so that when we do hear their grants at the meeting in February, we will be even more educated on, what they're doing now. I agree with all of that. I'm just saying a few things, but they're very small. We don't, they might not need. Again, it's only $1,000 for t-shirts, but there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done and even more. We don't know how much the city's going to have. I don't even know when the budget allocation is.
Hey, excuse me, Paul, this is Janet. So the CDBG funding is contingent on HUD giving us the allocation. So we're not certain of that yet. And then the general fund grants are based on the city council approval. So right now, we're not certain that there's going to be funding. We're just going forward with the process. It's still all contingent on the funding being available.
So to Toby's point earlier about just kind of passing on the approval from last year for those that didn't get the funding to this year so that they'll get funding. The only issue I see with that is that it might bypass two sets of funding that they might be able to receive. And so that might be the question that we want to address, is whether we want to recommend to the council that some of those funds that were intended for the 2021 year actually be applied, that they actually receive that funding in addition to the 21-22 year. Sorry, I'm getting my years mixed up.
Yeah, we can do that.
So the question is, do we want to recommend to the council that both years get funded to some extent, last year to whatever extent there's need, and then this year to, ideally full compared to previous year? Is that what we want?
Well,
Good.
I would think that's what we want. I'm just trying to be really specific, because if they are going to meet mid-year, I would like to have a list in front of them of really dire needs for whenever they're going to meet mid-year, which they've all told us many times. There'll be a mid-year allocation, and if there's funds left, you can reapply, or whatever the word is. So one thing we could do is make a small list of dire need, especially now, so that we're
And I think our site
dollar amount and a list of organizations. And I don't know whether we can spend a whole hour right now going through all of the detail, but there are, I can just tell you who was supposed to get and what they were supposed to get, and how many people I feel, based on their applications, which I read in detail, how many people in our city would have been served by these dollars.
It seems like our standard site process is kind of perfectly aligned with this, to be able to contact all these organizations that didn't get funding and have that conversation with them about what the need was, what the lack of funding, what challenges that presented, and so that we can bring that back. But it would be two separate recommendations we'd be making to the council, one for last year's, one for next year's. And so I guess my question is, at this point, is if we're approving social service grants for 21-22 in February, would we want to have reports back from our site visits to our prior meeting to that, so that we can make a recommendation to the council prior to making our 21-22?
There's no prior meeting, because the meeting that we recommend is the next meeting
in February.
So I think what I'm hearing, what I think is, if we in each, I'm going to assign like one or two, at least two, if not three organizations to each of you. We can contact them, find out what the immediate impact was, so that we're poised for immediate dollars, and then also make sure they applied for a grant in 2021, and make sure that we go over that grant in 21-22, and make sure we go over that grant in February. So if we can just each pick one or two of these organizations, we'll have, a two-tiered approach, a current, immediate approach that maybe will be satisfied by a little bit of money, but still will be poised to fight for them for the second or next year. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a clarifying question with Janet?
Sure.
So Janet, is the funding that was approved but not allocated for the 2020 year, is that money gone? It's like it's already been, like, we have to pretend that doesn't exist, it's a wash year, or is it still in holding, waiting to see whether it's available in a in a secondary or subsequent cycle?
So you're talking about the money for the current fiscal year that we're in?
Yeah, the one where the grants were not funded.
Yeah, so there was no funding ever allocated
So the approval for the grants was just
from the committee. from the
$54,000.
committee, not from the council.
We approved 54,000 and they did not put it in their budget. We approved it, but they did not add it to the city budget.
So it wasn't that it was moved from one pot to the other. It was just never given.
Never approved, correct.
Yeah, never in.
So that would be in the mid-year review, if you wanted to, that's when your committee could ask the council at that point to include that funding in the mid-year review.
Yeah, and I think we should do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Did that help? Did that answer your question, Brenda?
Only slightly. So because the concern is what's going to be different this cycle. So if they didn't approve it and nothing has changed, or we're not in a better financial position as a city, I'm just wondering what the exercise is going to look like.
Yeah, I can't really answer to what might change. I did talk to Paula briefly, and I said what I would recommend is that she attend the budget workshop that the council has, and I believe it's in May. And this item would be in recommendation for the budget for the council approval. And then you could talk on the item at that point. I mean, that could be different.
Okay.
The budget workshop is in May of 2021 to talk about the budget that they're going to approve, because they did it
In June. So the council would have the budget workshop with the recommendations in May, and then that would be approved then in June. So that would be my suggestion is to go to that budget workshop, Paula, and relay the importance of the grants from your perspective to council. And they would be aware of.
Janet, one follow-up question is, do you happen to know the council meeting where the mid-year budget review would be happening? Is that in February?
That hasn't been announced yet, but I believe it would be February timeframe, but I will definitely get you guys that information as soon as it's published.
Okay. Yeah, because if we did want to propose to the council that they do some kind of reversal of not funding those, previously approved social service grants, we'd want to do it by that mid-year budget session.
So what's the mechanism of the mid-year budget? Is it another closed door meeting? How is that done? It's not a regular city council meeting that's open to the public, right?
If it's an item that goes to council.
It's an item.
It would be on the agenda as an item that would go to council.
Okay.
So you would have an opportunity to
Open meeting.
on that, correct?
Okay. So this sort of segues into what I said. We need to understand what money was lost, what it would have been used for, sort of prioritize. And the only way we can do that is for each of us to pick two organizations. I don't know whether we could do it now. I just don't know. But
Why don't we just do the ones we did last year?
Right. But we should, yes. I have them here. I mean, we have Age Well Senior Services, which was for case management, in-home support services. So it was $5,000. They always got $5,000. And I don't know whether I can share my screen. I don't think I can. Can I, Janet?
No.
Okay. You probably all have received this over the past couple of months to your emails, but I don't know what you guys all check in your email right now. But there are 32 people get in-home support services, 32 seniors in town, at a cost of $5,000 a year for 32 seniors to get in-home support service. So they did not get that for $5,000. Assistance League of Capistrano Valley, which is the downtown thrift store, didn't get their $2,000 to give 300 students shoes and backpacks at Target. So to go back to school. The Boys and Girls Club Summer Brain Gain, the 240 students usually did not get their $5,000 for the summer brain gain. I think they did it anyway. They didn't get our money to do it, the city's money. The Christ Lutheran and St. Clement's Episcopal Church did not get $2,500 to serve 150 people to help them do their laundry. Many of those people are Marine families that don't have the money to do their own laundry. They do it, but they don't have the money to do it. So they provide quarters every other Wednesday at the laundry on El Camino Real so they can do their laundry for their families. There was COA was supposed to get $4,000 for 6,000 people to do all their sports and crafts and substance abuse issues, and it was Thrive Alive. they did not get 6,000. They did not get their $4,000 for 6,000 kids and adults, young adults. FAM did not get their $16,000 for hunger and homeless prevention to serve 17,500 people.
Excuse me, Paula, this is Janet. Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
So Age Well Senior Services, the city got another round of CDBG funding for COVID, right? And Age Well got $40,000 to serve the seniors for increased food distribution,
Okay.
and senior meal programs. And then FAM got $40,000 of that funding as well for utility and housing assistance and a food pantry.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
I did
so
not.
they did get some of that COVID directly related to preventing, preparing, or responding to COVID. So we were able to give them some funding.
Okay. Okay. There's like this one. I-5 Freedom Network for Way to Be Life Skills for Teens to serve 36 teens. Applied for we were approved for 5,000 and didn't get any of that. Because I Love You to serve 160 families, did not get their $2,500, and that supports families that are having issues with their children. It's a family-oriented organization. Pregnancy Resource Center did not get $3,000 for STD testing and treatment for 80 different people. San Clemente Village did not get their $3,000 for outreach to 270 seniors in town. Grad Night did not get $1,000 for 750 t-shirts for Grad Night, which they did not have. And Wellness and Prevention did not get the $5,000 for 176 people to be served by community mental health services. So if what you're saying is that Age Well and FAM were able to get different funding, I still believe that they deserve a visit, but maybe we can prioritize some of the other organizations higher. Is that what you're saying, Janet? To get some.
No, I was just letting you know that we were able to fund Age Well and FAM. And I would be, when you look at the grant applications, their projects probably changed because when they wrote their applications, COVID hadn't hit yet. So when you reach out to them, I would just see, what their project is now. Do they still need the money? Like I know the t-shirts for Grad Night, like things like that might have changed. So you just might want to mention that when you talk to them to see how can the money help you now in light of COVID. And maybe they'll want more, maybe you could ask for more, maybe they'll need less, but it was just a thought maybe you could to consider.
Janet, just one question. I guess it's a point of order. In terms of making this recommendation, is it something that, let's say Paula, as our representative for the committee, could come up with the list of what the committee recommends prior to our February 9th meeting, or would we need to make those recommendations during that meeting?
I'll have to get back with you. Let me think about that, Tyler. But I think that perhaps the two that were on the committee last year, that would have been you and Paula, could come up with that list, and then you could do that and have that prior to the meeting, and then discuss it with the members. Would be my initial thought on that.
Yeah, works for me. And I guess we could just divvy out the site visits as we normally do so that everybody's got some, and we'll just have to have a date prior to our February 9th meeting where reports are due back to Paula.
Yeah, I can organize that. There's 6 of us. We can ask Burton, or we can assign Burton, but there's 12 organizations that were awarded money that did not get. So I'd like 2 people, 1 person to pick 2. Either we can do it now or we can do it through email, whatever you want to do it. But I'm gonna.
I'll take FAM and wellness.
Okay.
Well,
Toby wants FAM. Toby.
Oh wait.
Toby wants FAM, and Toby wants wellness and prevention. Okay. Let me put down the rest of them.
yeah,
Then,
I'll take PRC.
You want resource, right? Bill, okay.
Bill, I'll take PRC, and I've got it indeed. So
What was the other one?
everybody, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I didn't hear the last one. I'm sorry.
I said I would take PRC Pregnancy Resource Center.
I got that one.
Okay,
Okay. All right. So we have Age Well. Who wants Age Well? I'll take it.
Jim,
Okay.
Has his hand up.
I'll take Age
He's
Well.
muted.
Operation School Bell, that is Assistance League, the Capo Valley, and that's the thrift store downtown. They were very helpful. Gave me a bunch of fabric right when COVID started to make a bunch of masks. They were great. If you want, I can take them. Okay. Boys and Girls Club's next. Who wants Boys and Girls Club?
I can do it. And maybe I could do the Bernice Ayer after school program also.
Yeah, excuse me, this is Janet again. I think that we didn't fund them because they were not a nonprofit. I think I remember.
Yeah.
Is that,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Did they receive CDBG funding, or was it just kind of next from the list?
They didn't receive CDBG. Yeah, they didn't receive any funding.
Okay.
Okay, interesting, because they've received funding in past years.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Okay. We have Laundry Love is next. I met with them too. I can do them. I know who they are. COA. I'm with them all the time, but can somebody else should talk to COA besides me. Who else? Does anybody want COA?
Brenda?
I don't have any assigned yet, so I'll take COA because somebody want to talk to anyway.
Okay. All right. And then we've got I-5. So that's Brenda, but what, Brenda, would that be you or do you want someone else to actually?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I could self-audit.
Okay.
No, don't do that. Obviously, you need somebody else to do it.
You want somebody else in the I-5?
I'll do it.
Who was that?
I'll take I5.
That was
Tyler.
Okay, sorry. I'm looking at my computer, not my faces. Because I love you.
Me.
Okay.
I could do Billy if nobody wants it.
No, I'll do Billy. I'll do it.
Because I love you. Jim's not that.
Billy is Because I Love You.
San Clemente Village.
Also,
San
the
Clemente
confusion,
Village.
it's parent to parent and Billy and Because I Love You. It's three
Yep.
names for the same.
Jim's
group.
got parent to parent. Because I love you. That's all.
Yeah, it's the same, all the same.
And how about San Clemente Village?
San Clemente Village.
I could do them. I know them very well. The grad night, I can't get a hold of SCHS, which is our next topic. I can't get a hold of them for anything.
Anything.
And Toby, can someone try grad night besides, Toby tried grad night?
Sure. I mean, like I went over there, they wouldn't talk to me.
I'm just assigning it to you. Okay. So what I've got here is, I've got me for Age Well, I've got me for Assistance League of Capo Valley, I've got Tyler for Boys and Girls Club, I have me for Laundry Love, Brenda for COA, Toby for FAM, Tyler for I-5, Jim for Parent to Parent, Bill for Pregnancy Resources, me for San Clemente Village, Toby for Grad Night, and Toby for Wellness and Prevention. That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is you reach out to them, find out what the lack of funds did, what their new programs are, make sure they applied for a grant, and get back to me through an email or a phone call before February 9th.
And
What we're-
just a point, you and Tyler are gonna be reviewing the grant applications and doing the recommendations. Okay, so we'll just
And that's the next
keep
thing, yeah.
keep that status quo.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
so that's number 3 on
We
the,
need a vote.
I need a motion for the 2 committee minutes. I need a motion in a second.
I move that the 2 committee grant application people be Paula Cole and Tyler Bowden for the revise, the 2020 revise and for the 2021 new project, just for consistency's sake.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All moved, say aye.
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 Opposed? Good, thank you. All right, we've got unfinished business. The resource guide, which you all have, I assigned 2 pages for each person. I'll be real quick on this. I've received, you're to check the websites, check the phone numbers. If there's an address, check the address. Send me an update either through the Word document that I made, password unprotected, or just print it and copy it, or just get back to me with all your changes. I did look at 211.org, and you have to go and drill down to get to what you're looking for. Our resource guide was a little bit easier, I felt, plus it was more San Clemente specific. So I opted that we would have both, actually, the 211.org link and also the new resource guide. So we will have that done and by the next meeting.
Oh, did you get mine? I sent it.
Yes, I did. Thank you. And Toby's. Okay. Item B, high school student award. I have reached out to every single person at the high school that I have an email address for, and I haven't received nothing.
No.
And I asked Toby to do the same thing. You can give a report, Toby.
Nothing.
Sent
They
over
don't- At first, they can't find, okay. They can't find the person who, you ready? Who might know. Not the person who knows, but who might know. Well, I think that person might be at lunch. So I go over there. Talk to someone in that like little ASB. And I said, look, you have this outside area. We could just sit 6 feet apart and yell at each other. But we could at least see the person. I didn't say yell. I think I said communicate. But I don't know. That might not be within the current parameters. So I still don't know. And you don't know, I don't know.
We don't even have a program that the teachers can even identify, needy students or students for. Before, it was the teachers would identify a student,
Right.
and then the student would apply, and then we would get these applications and we would go over them.
Read the, yeah.
So we haven't even gotten to the point where they even acknowledge that there is a program.
Right.
And that's so I don't know, Janet, what at this point. I might just go to Chris Carter and start at the top again. Work my way down. I don't know whether he has his email, but maybe he will. So all I can say is that we're still trying to do something. There must not be a need, or because we've reached out to so many people to say we will help mentor these kids to help them get through getting into college or whatever they want to do. But
they're so generally, it's chaotic. They're getting stuff from the state Department of Ed, the county Department of Ed on what they can do and what they can't do. And some students attend, some don't, some are part-time. You know what I mean? They're there at the campus sometime. Zoom sometime. Some are all Zoom. I don't know.
And again, what we're going to do, what we would like to do, there may not be high priority. So I can get it. I understand it's not high priority, or they don't understand. So we'll just have to keep reaching out and explaining what we can do and see if somebody will respond to us.
Okay.
That's what I think. And Toby goes over there once in a while. We'll just keep trying.
Yeah.
But until then, we don't really have anything to report on that. Okay. The next thing is update on the Joint Homeless Subcommittee with Tyler and Bill.
And nothing to report. Our work plan was submitted to the council, and they looked at it in their November meeting, but they decided to table it until February at that meeting. I'm not exactly sure the specific reasons why they decided to table it, but they spoke about it again at last week's council meeting, and they may be pushing it up to January to approve. So we're basically just waiting for approval from the council to begin work on our work plan.
It's possible they wanted 5 members on city council, but okay. So there may be a report.
Yeah, it could be that they were looking for that. Yeah. And so, we'll look forward to that. Our chair, Gary Walsh, has been doing a great job reaching out to council members, and he's already kind of started doing a little bit of work in terms of outreach to other cities and organizations, homeless outreach and shelter organizations. And so we've got, a lot of work to do, and we'll hit the ground running once we get going.
Good. Okay. Yeah, there is. Okay. The next thing is the basically city staff and community members communication, education topic for February. I had written down child, adolescent, and young adult needs and issues. I still think that's valid. I think we've addressed seniors, we've addressed young adults, we've addressed substance abuse. We haven't gotten to the child. So I think that should be a good topic for our next meeting. And then the next thing is the calendar that Janet had sent us. It's basically the same kind of calendar, right? Every 2 weeks, every 2 months, second Tuesday of the month. Janet's on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. And then we will all, the committee will change in June, I believe, to 5 members. I'm not sure when we have to reapply if we're interested and when the meeting is going to be, but I know the next committee will be comprised of 5 of us. And I believe that 2 of us will have a 1-year term and 3 will have a 2-year term, or it might be the other way around. I don't know. But that's the way it was written out a while ago. So we'll see.
We've got February, right? And then April, and then June.
February you apply, April you get interviewed.
I thought that was changing in June.
I don't know. Do you know what it is, Janet?
I think that they're effective until the end of June, all of your appointments, and that's all I know right now. I don't think there is any more information, but I know the city clerk will be notifying you when there's more information out there.
I'll let everybody know.
So we got February and April, and then technically June, and then it'd be after June.
Right. So we'll meet again February. We'll meet again April. We'll meet again June.
Yep.
And then there'll be a new committee.
It'll be
Probably.
fine.
I would have, or maybe the first meeting in the first meeting in June is the new committee. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm sure by the April meeting, we might have more information to share at that point.
Okay. City offices are closed December 24th to January 1. Is there anything else, Janet, that we need to talk about?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that we covered it.
All right. Well, thank you all.
I can
I have
make a
you here.
motion.
What else? What do you want to say? What did you say, Tyler?
Oh, I was just going to say, I can make a motion to adjourn to our next regular meeting of the Human Affairs Committee on February 9th, 2021 at 3:30 p.m.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Be healthy.
Okay.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, everyone.
Holidays.